Check one, check two. All right, so this is going to be at least the third video of this that I've done, but all good. Better late than never, right? I felt like I should record this after kind of the Module 2 debacle earlier this week, and then, or some of the difficulties with Module 2, and then I had some technical difficulties the last couple times I recorded this as well. Anyway, hopefully you can hear me. Hi. I'm here. Hopefully you can I'll save this video. Anyway, we'll try and keep this a lot quicker than my last couple of recordings. So, hi, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Who am I? Why am I talking to you? My name is Alexander Booth, and I am the head tutor and head instructor for this cohort over the next 10 or so weeks here. My role is to make sure that you are all able to synthesize the material each week, get some understanding, and of course, going to recap you with all the 10,000-foot views of what we're actually trying to accomplish here. I have about 10 years of experience in data science and similar positions, including data engineering, machine learning engineering, and AI engineering. I started working in kind of the fintech startup space, moved into sports analytics, where I helped run and create the front office of a Major League Baseball analytics team. And then most currently, I work as a solutions architect for Databricks. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, in the United States, and I'm excited to kind of interact with so many people from around the world here in this class. In addition to myself, we also have Karen Fisher, who will be operating as a TA. You'll see both myself and them in the discussion forums in the chat. So again, just be ready and willing to ask questions, and we'll be more than happy to give you answers, again, based on our experience in the space as well as just in general. In terms of teaching and enablement, I've taught data science boot camps very similar to this, both asynchronously and live sessions for about the last 5 years or so. And I'm also very actively involved in enablement sessions through Databricks as well. So IBM obviously has some awesome, really great work, and I work closely with those folks too. So I'm excited to kind of get some material into y'all's brain and hopefully kind of help drive and facilitate some of the learning that you all are hoping to get out of this class. Real quick, we'll cover some high-level course logistics. Each week opens on about a Wednesday or so, and we'll have live sessions on Mondays. So mark your calendars for Mondays at 6 p.m. GMT or 2 p.m. Eastern Time, based out of the United States. We'll have live sessions on Mondays with both myself and Karen on, where we'll walk through some of the labs to go over the high-level ideas and have a more detailed session than this live recording here today. So how does each week work? With each week, you'll have a bunch of media sets. This includes video, text, reading, and mini quizzes. Nothing in the media set is graded, but I do highly recommend doing those practice quizzes at the end of each media set, as those questions will be directly applicable to the final assessment quiz at the end of each module. In addition to media sets, you all also have discussion forums where I have a couple of kind of baked in questions throughout the week, hopefully to get some just engagement. Note that the discussion forums are not graded, but I do recommend participating as much as you can. And then finally, the assessment quiz at the end of each week. This is graded and will contribute to your overall grade in the course. Note that if you do watch the videos and do the practice questions in the media sets, you should have no trouble with the assessment quiz. But myself and Karen will go through and help adjust grades, and we can also answer questions as needed in the discussion forums too. The assessment quizzes at the end of each module are fairly light in terms of the overall grade, and the majority of the grade is going to come from a final capstone project where you will perform a real end-to-end data science project with a final write-up or white paper. Karen and myself will grade that final capstone at the end of the boot camp, at the end of this certification. Let's see. Know that since this course is mostly going to be asynchronous, you get what you put into it, right? So I recommend aiming for small, regular time blocks most days rather than cramming at the end of each week to get everything done. There's a lot of video, a lot of text. You don't need to memorize everything. And I totally get it if you watch some of the videos at 1.5 or 2x speed. What we're trying to do in both the optional modules and each module as we go, we want to expose you to a lot of concepts, a lot of content. A couple favorite sayings of mine are things like, you don't know what you don't know, which again is very true in technology, just so the ever-evolving landscape, as well as uh, like once you know what you don't know, right, then you're able to kind of take a more targeted approach after the class is over and really kind of focus on things you want to know more about. So there's going to be a lot of exposure, a lot of breadth in this content with targeted depth. So for example, we're going to go targeted depth into Python. We're going to go targeted depth into machine learning. But we're going to give you a lot of breadth around those areas too, right? For example, in Module 2, if you've started some of that, a lot of those concepts around exactly what you're doing with Python and web scraping, a lot of that is a very high breadth of content that may not be directly applicable in every single project that you will do. Cool. If you have questions on anything related to logistics, please reach out to me or Karen in any of the discussion forums in Module 1. Note that at the time of this recording, the Module 2 discussion forums are still broken, so we have kind of a safe space in the Module 1 discussion forums to talk about Module 2 as well. All right, so 10 thumbs up for view on course logistics. Work through the media sets, to work through the videos, to work through the text, to work through the practice quizzes, do all of that at your own pace. On Mondays, we're going to be doing our 1 hour live session where we'll be reviewing the labs and doing the 10,000-foot view of that content. At the end of each week, do your module assessment to make sure that you actually synthesize the material, and then the next module open up on Wednesdays. Participate in the forums, talk to each other, really kind of want to make this a community. All right, so 10,000 foot view for module 1. Again, a lot of this was covered in our last live session, so please go ahead and watch that recording when you can. But in 5 minutes or less, the big idea for module 1 is to think like a data scientist, right? How do we start thinking like a data-driven practitioner? We want to start from a business understanding, right? Start from a question, a hypothesis, an observation or pattern around the world around us that you want to dive further into, right? Typically, we don't just do data science for the sake of doing data science, right? We start with a hypothesis or question that we want to get further information from. How do we tie that analytics back to an answer, back to a decision that needs to be made, tie it back to actual business value? So not only are we starting from a question, but we're also going to be expecting iteration. We go from the question to data cleaning, to modeling, to actually deploying and actually making that decision. But there's always another question, right? Or sometimes our data model doesn't answer the question correctly. So we have to iterate how we create that model. So just note that it's very cyclical, this process. And finally, be open to uncertainty, right? There's uncertainty in the data, both in the bias and its limitations. There's uncertainty in the actual decisions that we make as humans. And there's uncertainty in specific machine learning models, right? There's uncertainty in generative AI. There's uncertainty in probabilistic models. It's normal, and we need to quantify it and communicate it to our final stakeholders. Finally, data science is really about two things, storytelling and truth telling, right? How do we tell a story of the data, right? How do we use the data to explain assumptions, to explain trade-offs, and finally to explain the decision that we're trying to recommend, right? Data visualization is an art, and that art is part of storytelling. And truth telling, right? We want to make sure that we're not lying with our numbers. It's very easy to lie and spread misinformation in the current world. And with great power of being a data scientist comes great responsibility to make sure that our stories are true. There are a couple of frameworks that we use to cover and that we covered that basically scaffolds this thinking, right, of how to think like a data scientist. The classic kind of IBM data science framework is going to be the CRISP DM framework. It includes 6 phases that loop around in a circle: business understanding, data preparation, modeling, evaluation, and deployment. Some big ideas to take away from here is that Once we have our question, once we have our business problem, and we have the data that we need to use to solve that question, we need to clean and prepare it, right? We need to make sure that our data is ready for analytics and ready for modeling. Next, the modeling phase may be a line of best fit. It may be a regression or machine learning model, but it can also be something more esoteric, such as a data visualization, a dashboard, an application, a generative AI application, or a chatbot. And then finally, we evaluate to make sure our data product matches our business problem and then deploy it into the wider world. A more modernized approach since the 2010s, which came around with the popularization of a big data and cloud analytics and cloud computing, is the Rollins framework. Rollins extends CRISP-DM to fit a more enterprise machine learning AI problem life cycle. It adds a couple new approaches. So after the business understanding, the question that we're trying to answer, comes the analytic approach. What are we actually trying to do and how do we want to do it, right? Are we going to need some generative AI thrown in there? Are we going to need some dashboards? Are we going to be creating a mobile application that people are interacting with that has live inference, live machine learning model predictions running in the background, right? Like, what are we actually going to do? Then we go through the same acquiring the data, clean the data, make sure that it's ready, and build our model before we get to deployment. But the last aspect to Rollins that I want to call out is the feedback loop. Once we create our data product, we're not done, right? It's not just done that we just deploy and call it a day, right? We always want to rely on feedback, feedback from users, feedback from data, anything from the ever-evolving landscape. This can come from data freshness as well as user feedback. So this feedback drives innovation and drives iteration on the project. My comparison here is that maybe in the old days, the result of a data science project was a white paper that then you would publish or give to your boss as a PDF, and then they would make some decision off of that, right? Now, data products that we create are more likely going to be living things or living in the sense that they're going to constantly be evolving, right? Think of chat applications or models, right? Maybe a model that's really good at predicting something today will need to be retrained on new data next year, right? Maybe the uh, acquisition or financial trends or patterns of different demographics have shifted over 12 months. We need to get that feedback from the model and update it. Or maybe we get feedback that our dashboards are too clunky or difficult to use. We need to take that, make sure that, again, we meet our executive stakeholders where they are as they start interacting with our data products. So again, how to use them together. Crisp DM is going to be your base map. How do we start from that business understanding and create something awesome that drives decision making? And then adding Rollins on top of that. How do we make sure that this data product that we create is a living um, product, right? Is an ever evolving product that meets our end users wherever they are over the course of multiple months, quarters, years, etc. What kind of analysis are we doing? How is it going to be governed? Who's going to monitor it in production, right? How are we going to retrain our models? All of these are important things to think about with modern big data applications. In the live session, we also then dove deep into an example lab of where we kind of discuss this framework at scale. So in the lab, we discussed the business problem of, is there a pattern? Is there a correlation between different ingredients and regional cuisines, right? What does it mean to be a Thai food? What does it mean to be Indian takeaway? What does it mean to be like Mexican food, right? So in this activity, we started from that question. What does it mean to be a regional cuisine? How do ingredients relate to that cuisine? We then loaded up our public data set that was already kind of ready for us, that someone else had already scraped. We cleaned it up. We had a lot of data cleaning to do. Again, data cleaning is a majority of your time. Standardized categories, fixed our data types, fixed our messy labels. And then we created a machine learning model. We created a decision tree to predict the cuisine class given the ingredients. And we actually saw that it worked fairly well, right? We saw that having soy and fish was more likely to be part of Thai cuisine, while maybe cumin and ginger is more likely to be part of a different type of cuisine, right? We then discussed at a conceptual level what it would mean to deploy this. Maybe we create a mobile application with this machine learning model baked into it. You open up your fridge at the end of a long day, type in your ingredients that you have, and it'll say, hey, you are likely going to be making Thai food tonight for dinner, right? Or this is the cuisine that we recommend you explore for further recipes. So kind of cool, right? Going from business question to actually a deployed data app, right? That we can then also gather feedback on and look for model drift and other kind of patterns. So big takeaways from week one, thinking like a data scientist. Business understanding is king. Make sure you have that foundation of what you're trying to answer, what you're trying to look at, right? If you don't know what you're trying to solve for or what questions you're trying to answer, you're not going to make very good models or data products downstream. Next, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you have bad data, it doesn't matter how beautiful your dashboard is, it's going to tell a wrong story. It doesn't matter how complex of a algorithm you're using, it's going to make bad predictions. Most of the time of a data scientist is cleaning, shaping, and understanding your data, understanding its biases, understanding its limitations, and understanding how that bias and limitations relate to your actual overall confidence in the data product you create. And then finally, know that everything relates back to the business problem, and your data model doesn't have to just be a single machine learning model. Things like dashboards, data apps, and LLM assistants are all data products that data scientists have to build and maintain in current enterprise teams. Highly recommend going through our discussion posts to get more details and links on all of this stuff. For Module 2, you're going to be getting an introduction to Python. Again, note that there's a lot of material that's covered. Your big ideas for Module 2 is understanding the four key pillars of computer science, including variables, conditionals such as if statements, loops such as for loops, and finally classes and functions. How do we organize and create a program? What is a computer program? That's kind of your big idea for Module 2. Again, there's a lot of detail in Module 2 that you don't have to memorize, but I want you to be exposed to. And again, we'll get targeted depth into those areas going into Module 3, 4, 5 over the next month or so. The lab or the big idea that we are framing our module to approach in is with web scraping. Your data exists in a website, your data exists on a cloud location on some URL somewhere. How can we write a program to extract the data from that location, represent that data as a data structure that we can interact with inside of our program, such as calculating the average or the sum, for example. And then once we have that data represented as a data structure, we can then start creating things, right? We can create models, we can create leaderboards, we can create averages and other metrics like that. So that's the framework to think about Module 2. And again, we'll go more details into Module 2 in our next live session, as well as in my little recap that I'll provide later this week. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on the discussion forums. I've shared a lot of links, including code in my GitHub, as well as other blogs. And again, if you want extra practice with Python, recommend going to kaggle.com/learn and trying the Intro to Programming and Python modules for Module 2 as well, just for some extra credit. Again, it's totally normal to feel overwhelmed and feel overloaded. There's a lot of material that we're throwing at you. Please just take a minute, zoom out, touch some grass, and really understand these big ideas. Again, week one, how do we think like a data scientist? And module two, how do we start understanding what it means to automate something, right? What does it mean to write a program and write a program to interact with data specifically? So we'll dive into more on this in detail over the next 10 weeks. Again, I'm Alexander, excited to support you in your journey here, and please reach out if you have any questions. Have a good night. Hopefully this recording worked this time, and I'll see you in our next live session.